RFK Jr. is testifying for his Senate confirmation hearing. And man, we got some firecrackers. We're going to go rapid fire on these videos because they are great. But here's the first. It's an image. This is prior to the hearing even starting. This is a member of the media already had a negative headline cooked up before it started. RFK Jr. faces grilling over anti-vaccine comments and animal mutilation. So at confirmation hearings, this is before he even set foot on the Senate floor. Why? Oh, I don't know. Could it be that maybe one of the members of the Senate leaked this to the press, what they were going to do, and they wanted to get out ahead on the propaganda campaign? You can take that down now. It's just you don't hate the mainstream media enough. But we've got a lot of videos from this, so I want to get into playing them real quick. This is the first one. Real easy question. Started off kind of light. He was talking about McDonald's and Diet Coke and shooting down a lot of the misconceptions that he's here to actually ban the food you want to eat. No, that's not what he wants to do. Turns out he doesn't want to ban the food you eat. He wants to let people know what's in the food they eat and create an actual national movement, not the fake Big Mike Michelle Obama national movement you saw about 8-10 years ago. An actual national movement that wakes people up to the garbage that's in their food and tries to get them to stop consuming it. Check this out.
I don't want to take food away from anybody. If you like a cheeseburger, a McDonald's cheeseburger, a Diet Coke, which my boss loves, and you should be able to get them. If you want to eat Hostess Twinkies, you should be able to do that. But you should know what the impacts are on your family and on your health.
So basically what this is going to do is he's not going to actually ban the food. I don't even think he can do that. Oh, he can in certain instances, but not to the scope that he would probably like to. He's not going to ban the food. What he's hoping to do is create such a public outcry about the actual poison that's in these foods that companies like McDonald's, companies like Coca-Cola, companies like Hostess come under immense pressure to change the ingredients and go a more healthy route. He's planning to actually manipulate the food market through capitalism, not through government interference and threats, but through the free market saying, hey, we don't want to eat this anymore. We don't want to drink this anymore. So why don't you change what you're doing? Or we're just going to go a different route. We're going to stop consuming your products. Do you think it'll work? What do you think? Do you think that'll, I like the idea, but do you think it'll work in practice?
I do like the idea. I see where he's coming from. I don't foresee it working.
I don't either. Is there something you wanted to add to it or no?
No, because, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, the average American...
I just don't think that a lot of people are really going to care.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to really change their minds.
Care
enough.
My hope is that it comes... This is the first time it's ever come from a position as high as the White House, though. That's the big hope. Is that maybe this time will be different, because you've always had people screaming about the garbage that's in our foods. You've always had people screaming about the fluoride that's in the water, but they've always been written off as fringe extremists. You can't do that now. If he gets confirmed, and it's looking like he's going to, as Secretary of the Department of Health, you can't just shoot him down and dismiss him. You actually have to listen to what he's saying, and you actually have to, these people, or for the first time ever, are going to have to confront the things he's saying with logic and facts rather than censorship. And that's what they don't like. Now, I agree. I think the average American, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, it's cheap, it's convenient. They may see a little hit, but maybe not big enough of one to justify them going a different direction. I like where his heart's at. I agree. I don't know if this is I hope it does, but I don't know if this is going to have any type of long-term effect. We'll see. It remains to be seen. But he had a number of... Do you have anything else you wanted to say before I go to the videos? He had a number of memorable exchanges with various senators. Here's one. Bernie Sanders, the man who stopped Markwayne Mullin, the res senator, from absolutely tearing that union president to shreds. Here's what Bernie Sanders had to say.
Senator, I can't give you a yes or no answer to that question.
Healthcare a human right? Is healthcare a human right?
In the way that free speech is a human right?
Yeah.
I would say it's different, because with free speech doesn't cost anybody anything, but in healthcare, if you smoke cigarettes for 20 years and you get cancer, you are now taking from the pool.
Well,
and so are you guaranteed the same right, or is there also a duty?
I'm sorry. I'd love to talk for an hour with you.
No,
We
you
got
wouldn't.
A few minutes left here. All right. Every other country on earth says healthcare, whether you're poor or rich, young or old, is a human right. I'm not hearing you say that. All right. You've talked about the drug companies, and maybe we agree.
I'm so sick of this human right thing. They throw human right because it's a buzzword. It doesn't actually mean anything. Healthcare is a human right in the sense that everyone has the right to go out and get healthcare, right? No one can tell you you can't get healthcare. You may have to pay a little bit more for it based on certain circumstances, but nobody can tell you you can't get healthcare, right? By the way, poor people, old people, we have Medicare and Medicaid. We have the VA. There are plenty of programs that are in place to make sure that people don't slip through the cracks in this country. That is a misconception. It is a lie. The middle class are the ones getting fucked over by the healthcare system, by Obamacare specifically. I could go on a whole rant about this. We don't have time for that today. The human right argument, though, is such a tired old diatribe. I'm sick of hearing about it. Yes, because here's the problem. In these countries, because RFK was about to explain that, but Bernie cut him off because he didn't want his whole socialist ideology to collapse like a sandcastle in front of him. In these countries where the government guarantees healthcare as a quote-unquote human right, do you know what happens? We've already gone over what happens in Canada, where they've now legalized assisted suicide, and they're recommending it to people as young as 15 years old for conditions like depression because the state-run healthcare system can't afford to take care of them. You have situations like that. You have situations like over in England, where they're telling people if you have a BMI of over 30, we're not going to help you anymore as the state-run healthcare. You're just going to die. If you're a smoker, we're not going to help you anymore. We're going to push you to the bottom of the list. That's what happens when the government overregulates any type of business, even healthcare. Is they have good intentions and it leads to destruction. Another example is there was a couple years ago, in England, there was a couple that had a son. It was a baby. It was Baby Alfie was the name of it. Do you remember this? Baby Alfie? It was a big controversy. He had some chronic condition that would have otherwise killed him. And there was nothing they could do in England. There were experimental treatments that hadn't been proven, but the kid was 100% certain to die if they continued on the regimen they were on, which is basically just palliative care. There was a doctor in Italy who had some success with a trial he had been doing on an experimental treatment for this kid's specific illness. The family said to the NHS over in England, we want to take our son to Italy to get this treatment. We're not asking for money. We're not going, we'll pay for it out of pocket. Like what? Not doing anything with you here. That's what they told their doctors at the NHS. They denied them this because when you are under the umbrella of state-run healthcare, you are a slave to the state. They own your body, and that's what no one wants to talk about with this socialized medicine crap. Is the state owns your body? They can deny you healthcare, and in America, if your insurance denies you healthcare, yeah, it sucks, but you can go get another insurance company that costs a little bit more money. You can go into debt. There's other options. In these countries, you just die. They just tell you to kill yourself. So this kid, the parents tried to escape and flee the country as refugees to Italy to get this surgery, and armed police officers in riot uniforms, I'm not kidding, grabbed this family, drugged them and their kid back to the hospital, and made them sit there and watch their infant son die. Because when you live under, like I said, when you live under the tyranny, and that's what it is, of government-run healthcare, that's the harsh reality of it. Is the United States system perfect? Absolutely not. But when you live under that tyranny, they own you. You are their slave, and you will do what they say. That includes going against your basic human instinct to protect your own child. Now, I think Bernie's heart is in the right place. I really do. I don't think he can defend his arguments. You saw him get gutted like a deer by Ted Cruz on CNN about 8 years ago. but I think his heart's in the right place. I think these people, they see a real problem and they see that as a solution. It's not the solution. The solution is not one you like. The solution is not a perfect one, but the best solution we have is to open the markets up, repeal Obamacare, and let these insurance companies cross state lines and compete with one another to make sure we can get the cheapest and best care available to us. Not healthcare that's going to say, hey, if you smoke cigarettes, we're not going to treat you. Not healthcare that's going to say, hey, if you're depressed, you're too much of a burden, you're a veteran, or whatever the case may be with PTSD, you're too much of a burden on the state-run healthcare system. We're just going to recommend you kill yourself. Actual, real solutions. Not perfect solutions, but the best ones available to us are to let the market run its course. Okay, let's go to the next one here. This is a funny one here. We're talking about dead babies and shit. But this is a funny one here. Bernie's kind of speaking of babies. So there was on RFK's campaign, there were baby onesies for sale on his presidential campaign website that said unvaxxed. And Bernie Sanders was very upset about this. And I heard an exchange between a senator and a cabinet nominee that I thought I would never hear in my life. Go ahead and check this out.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell.
Mia, are you supportive of these onesies? Are you supportive of the onesies, Mia? What about the onesies? Are you supportive of the onesies? Never thought I would hear a senator utter those words. Are you supportive of these onesies? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Here's a video with RFK Jr. and Oregon Senator and part-time vampire Ron Wyden. I call him a weirdo. Go ahead and check this out.
That Mr. Kennedy has embraced conspiracy theories, quacks, charlatans, especially when it comes to the safety and efficacy of vaccines. He has made it his life's work to sow doubt and discourage parents from getting their kids life-saving vaccines. It has been lucrative for him and put him on the verge of immense power. This is the profile of someone who chases money and influence wherever they lead, even if that may mean the tragic deaths of children and other vulnerable people.
So that was his attack video. I'm sorry. We need to bring back bullying people with lisps in this country. Like, the word lisp is so sick and demented if you think about it. They can't pronounce the word that describes their disorder. I want to get a job working for that guy where I write his speeches and I just see how many S words I can fit into one sentence. Just make it miserable. Make him the laughing. I've never heard that guy speak before. Here's his argument that he had with Senator Wyden, the vampire, about pharmaceuticals and vaccines. Go ahead and check this out.
All of these things cannot be true. So, are you lying to Congress today when you say you are pro-vaccine? Or did you lie on all those podcasts? We have all of this on tape, by the way.
Yeah, Senator, as you know, because it's been repeatedly debunked, that statement that I made on the Lex Friedman podcast was a fragment of the statement. He asked me, and anybody who actually goes and looks at that podcast and we'll see this. He asked me, are there vaccines that are safe and effective? And I said to him, some of the live virus vaccines are. And I said, there are no vaccines that are safe and effective. And I was going to continue for every person. Every medicine has people who are sensitive to them, including vaccines.
Right. So
he interrupted me at that point. I've corrected it many times, including on national TV. You know about this, Senator Wyden. So bringing this up right now is dishonest.
I love it. He's fighting back. They're debunking the lies, and he's able to do it on national television like that. We need more of this. We need more of this because they've done this for the longest time. This has been their tactic, is to take things out of context that they know, like the many fine people on both sides lie, the bloodbath lie. That lie right there that you just saw. They repeat it over and over and over again, even though it's been repeatedly debunked. But it's their go-to because they'd rather go to character assassination and intentionally taking quotes out of context than actually fighting these ideas head on. Here's the thing. I'm not anti-vaccine, you guys. I'm not. You're not either, are you? Mia's not either. But the reality is, when this COVID thing came around, like, I plan to vaccinate our kids for everything but COVID. I do. When this COVID vaccine came around and got pushed on everybody, what happened was you had kind of a Streisand effect, where people were going, okay, they're forcing this on us and they're lying to us so much about this COVID vaccine. What other vaccines are you lying about? And they got into doing a lot of their own research because their doctor dismissed it, but they're like, hey, my doctor's the same one who's pushing this COVID vaccine. So maybe he's in on the take too here. So they started doing their own research. They started going to people that were maybe not the most dependable sources. And I'm not talking about RFK Jr. on that. RFK Jr. is not anti all vaccines. He's anti the way we administer vaccines to kids at their age, and I'll get into that in a second. But they started looking into people who were maybe not the most reliable sources, and what they did was the federal government, Dr. Fauci, and the Department of Health inadvertently created an entire new generation of anti-vax parents who never otherwise would have even considered it until they ran this giant lie campaign with the COVID vaccine. Now, RFK Jr., his issue is not with vaccines. He's not saying you shouldn't get vaccinated for measles or anything like that. That's not what he's saying. RFK Jr. is saying, hey, maybe there's a problem with the way we issue vaccines. Maybe we should actually look at the people that we're administering these vaccines to before we just shoot them up with all of them and then go, oops, well, looks like you were allergic to that one, and now you've got all these different issues that you wouldn't have had we not given it to you. That turns out these issues are actually worse than the virus you would have caught if you had gotten it. That's all he's saying. He's also saying, hey, maybe we put these vaccines in these kids all at the same time. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Maybe we should study that. He's not saying that we should outright change the policy overnight. He just wants to look into it. And the fact that the medical community is so concerned about him just wanting to look into it is very, very concerning to me. Here's the reality. I got curious, so I wanted to look. I wanted to check here. In 1995, right? We received, by the age of 6, 15 to 16 doses, if you include varicella, which was 1 dose. In 2024, by the age of 6, the average 6-year-old receives 31 doses of vaccines. 31 doses. Now, I'm not saying that those 15 doses they've added were bad. But we at least have to ask, there's a lot. Look, man, objectively speaking, kids from the 90s were healthier, both physically and mentally, than kids in the 2020s. That's a fact. Is this correlation or causation? I don't know, but I think it's worth looking into. And the fact that they don't even want to look into this is what worries me here. I'm not saying all these vaccines are bad, but do we need to be shot up with all of them by the age of 6? Did we really? Were there all these new viruses that popped out to where we need to double the vaccine doses that kids get before the age of 6? It's a legitimate question. It's doubled. Doubled. That should raise red flags for everybody. The fact that it doubled isn't what raises the red flags for me, like I said. The fact that they don't even want to talk about it is what raises the red flags. And the important thing about having RFK Jr. at the head of the Department of Health is now they don't have a choice but to talk about it, because now they can't dismiss him as some kook. Now when the Department of Health comes knocking on your door and not Alex Jones or some conspiracy theorist on YouTube, you actually have to answer for the things you've done and explain them. And he's a lawyer, so he'll pick this shit apart. Let's take a look at Ron Wyden. He's very, very bold in this video. Look, these are his donors. It's opensecrets.org. His biggest donor. He gets over second biggest donor, Over $1.5 million from the medical industry. $1.5 million received from the medical industry for Ron Wyden. Gee, I wonder why he's such a big defender of a lot of these practices. I can't imagine what's causing that. Well, I wonder where he's coming from with this one. Does he actually feel this way, or is he defending his donors? Big question there. Okay, we got these next videos we're going to play real quick. Elizabeth Warren asked him, I mean, this woman just asked stupid questions. She looked dumb in the Pete Hegseth video. She looks dumb here. Look at this softball question she asked him here. What the hell was she even thinking?
You said that President Trump asked you to, quote, clean up corruption and conflicts. Sounds great. You've said that you will, quote, slam shut the revolving door between government agencies and the companies they regulate. That also sounds great. So here's an easy question. Will you commit that when you leave this job, you will not accept compensation from a drug company, a medical device company, a hospital system, or a health insurer for at least 4 years, including as a lobbyist or a board member?
Can you just repeat the last part of the question? Can I commit
You're
to
not going to take money from drug companies in any way, shape, or form.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy to commit to that.
Okay, good. That's what I figured. I said it's an easy question to start with. And I think you're right on this question.
I don't think any of them want to give me money, by the way.
Let's keep going.
She just set him up for a slam dunk there through an accidental alley-oop. The thing is, you can tell she's so stupid, the woman who lied about being Native American to get into college and then lied about it to get elected to the Senate. She's so stupid that she thought she was setting him up for a gotcha moment, and it turned out to be the easiest softball question he got from anybody, Democrat or Republican. Now, here's another video. It's a little bit longer, but it shows how unhinged this woman is and how incapable she is of controlling her emotions. We need to get people like this out of public office. Check this one out.
I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
No,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS, and I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I...
It literally is.
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine
overwhelming in the question.
pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it.
I just wanted to show you guys her going wild there. That's I love how he blows his nose halfway through it. Just a lack of respect, and she doesn't deserve any. The woman's completely unhinged. By the way, just like Ron Wyden, let's take a look at Elizabeth Warren's top donors. Let's go look at the sectors over there. Oh, as it turns out, Elizabeth Warren has received nearly $2.5 million, even more than Ron Wyden, from the healthcare and medical industry. She's also received over $1 million from the pharmaceutical industry, which moves that into the top three when you count those two together. So there you go. So turns out she's got a little bit of stake in that game as well. Just a little bit of stake in that game as well. It's crazy how they all got skin in the game. They're all very defensive of their corporate sponsors. You know, I've always said you don't fuck with a man's income, and I guess that's their income, so it makes sense. But, the worst part about this RFK thing is this guy has been brought to testify in front of Congress many a times throughout history. Many a times, specifically in the early 2000s. He was the same guy. And the people that brought him to testify for various policies were the Democrats. And a lot of the times, the policies they brought RFK to testify on behalf of in the 2000s were not policies I agreed with or even agree with now. They were environmental policies. But back then, you didn't see the character assassination. You didn't see this attempt to paint him as some crooked kook who's just out there to make a bunch of money and grift off of vaccines and healthcare. You didn't see that. But this is the same guy. His voice is a little bit raspier, but other than that, he's saying the same stuff now that he was 20 years ago. You can call Bobby whatever you want, but the reality is this guy is, if he's anything, it's consistent. So what's changed? The only thing that's changed between now and 20 years ago, when the Democrats were trotting him out in front of Congress, is the letter next to his name, because they are partisan hacks who serve their corporate sponsors before the American people.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.